Hey, welcome back to the Drum Rundown. We're here in Nashville, Tennessee with Michael Miley of Rival Sons. What's going on, man?
Hi, guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I've been wanting to sit down with you for a long time because from, just the look of this kit, I'm sure a lot of our viewers can catch the reference, the homage. Why don't you talk about the inspiration behind this kit?
The sizes, if you follow, the history of Led Zeppelin and John Bonham, it's the same sizes. I didn't make any different anything. I just wanted to try to get a Bonham sound. And no one's going to sound like Bonham, so I figured I would sound like myself, playing on big drums, tuned high. It's kind of what I've always done. The 60s drummers of the British Invasion drummers mainly, the Beatles, Stones, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Cream, those drummers tended to tune high. And so the drums have a pitch, they have a tone to them. And so I wanted to go for a big drums tuned high kind of sound. All my favorite drummers are like the bebop drummers and then the British Invasion drummers, so which all tune their toms up.
Yeah.
High, snares up high, so. This has a little bit of a Wincent muffling, but their version of a moon gel. It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of ring. So that classic sound that we all know and love from those 60s drummers informed exactly what I do. And I love tuning drums as well. So
yeah, and you've always said big drums tuned high.
Yeah.
And I see that you're rocking Aquarians. What led you to those heads?
I've been playing Aquarians, almost 20 years. I studied with Roy Burns, and he was just starting, they were just starting the company, a few years before that. But and then I went to Remo, and then Roy Burns got mad at me. And love Roy, God rest his soul. But I remember I switched over to Aquarian probably 2004, 2005, I'm not sure. But they are, every time I've put them in cases, go on tour, put them in cases, they sit in cases for 6 weeks or whatever, go back out on tour, you pull them out of the cases and it's just like, just still in tune. And so they stay in tune, they're more durable. I change heads maybe once a tour, so I'll go through maybe 2 sets of heads in a tour. The classic clear with the power dot is just a more controlled sound for me. And I think you can just hear it. And it sounds different sitting here than it does, right there. That was the thing that tripped me out. I played one of these kind of kits. A buddy of mine, Mark Romans in Long Beach, he had a kit set up, allegedly John Bonham's, one of his Green Sparkle kits. Had it set up in his living room, and I walked in, and I was like, holy, and I sat behind it, and it scared me. It was just barking like a dog. It was so loud and ringy, and I couldn't really play very well. Like, it was just freaking me out. And so Mark said, go stand in front of the kit. And then, he played, play like Full in the Rain or something. And it sounded amazing right there. So then I went back around and started playing it. And then I've never played anything smaller since.
Yeah.
So I stuck with that sound. Once I knew it sounded that way out there, because it's different. A drummer, from a drummer's perspective, the sound here is different than what like the audience hears or the band members. So that's another thing you kind of have to have a attenuator in your musicianship, because it's pretty boingy. But I'm so used to it now. I've been playing this kind of style for over 20 years.
And I know a lot of drummers pick their heads so that they get the response, so that they feel the drums, because a lot of things are, in-ears, and you have a lot of stuff happening on stage, and you're playing outside, you're playing big festivals, so you really want to feel that air moving yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
I see that you also have the center dots, which is giving you a little bit of control. Mm-hmm. You're also doing internal dampening. What led you to the internal dampeners?
Our drum tech, previous drum tech, Matthias Landes, he just dropped some just stray cotton into the bottom of the heads. I think we were, I don't know, we were playing a big room or something, and then he just left them in there, and our sound guy loved it because it made his job easier. It still gives me that response or that tone that I want, and it allows the sound guy to have a little more control. Anytime you start muffling, it's inversely proportional to how good you tune or how bad you tune. If you're a terrible tuner, you want to muffle the heck out of them. If you're a good tuner, you don't need to muffle as much. So bottom head is the decay head for the most part. So the decay is going to be less in length. So it's very controlled.
Yeah.
Bah. This one's kind of
sympathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of sympathy going on.
And you mentioned before that you love tuning drums.
Mm-hmm.
What is your process of tuning?
I do bottom heads first. Bottom heads are higher in pitch, and then.
Okay.
Bum, 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 bum. What is that? Like major third, minor third, or something?
So you're looking for that relativity between the two.
Yeah. So the way to avoid, for any drummers who want to learn how to tune, the way to avoid the bow. A lot of drums do that. Like a lot of the '80s guys went for that sound. But if you just want a ding and you want to hold a tone, you want your bottom heads to be higher in pitch. So, which will kind of balance out or cancel out all those sympathetic tones, and it'll just keep that.
Yeah.
So you can hear the sympathetic tones, but audience is never going to hear those sympathetic tones. But so I start with the bottom head tuned slightly higher. The place I start from is a whole step. So happy birthday, bum 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 bum. So Matthias, my old tech, used to tune in fourths. I tune the bass drum. This is a fourth higher than the batter head.
Okay.
So I can't really tell from. So and then we use the towel. This is basically a bath towel cut in 4-inch strips, and we were in Clemson. We were playing Clemson, opening for Evanescence, and there was no drum shop or whatever the college town is, and so we needed to get to my felt strip tore or something, and this is early on. We opened for Evanescence in like 2011, I think. So it was early in the Rival Sons touring career. So we just got a bath towel from a hotel and cut it. And so we've been using this ever since.
Same bath towel?
No. So every time we, either I bring a new kid out on the road or, sometimes they just get so dingy and dirty and dusty. Or you could see the fraying on the ends of these. They start fraying inside and going zzz, like buzzing on the head. So, but it's just a good way. And as you can see, there's nothing inside, no pillow. And then we have the internal mic that gets the attack. And then I have we don't have it here today in the rehearsal setup, but we usually use a D20, the AKG, not the D. The D112 famous drum mic. We either use a D12 or a D20. So I have a D12 reissue, which is it's a great mic. They used it a lot in the 60s and 70s. So that captures the low end out front, and you can see there's no hole in the front of the kick. So that controls the sound just as much as I'm going for a controlled bark. Like controlled tone. That's what I like to have in my drum sound.
Yeah, and you're really kind of doing all of the things at every level to let the actual natural resonance of the pitch of the drum sing. And I think that that's why this big kit sounds wrangled in and you have it dialed in. Because it could just be a nightmare if you didn't know how to tune it. Yeah. You're doing a great job.
And you have to know how to play these kind of drums too, because you want to, one of my drum teachers he says you don't pull sound of the drums, you just play the drum. But there's this idea of, like when you play timpanis, that you're basically trying to get the stick off the drum, but that's in a basic rebound. The sticks, a lot of guys, they hurts my wrist just doing that twice. But and then those guys will have the fat ring,
big fat snare,
Richie ring for the old school guys. I play. So,
well, it's the same concept of not burying the beater. You're trying to let the bass drum breathe.
So when I'm playing, I'm. So everything is coming off that drum. So, snare. So there's not one thing I really do. I mean, some of the Brazilian. I don't really play Brazilian style with Rival Sons, but that's like a more Latin drumming style stuff.
Yeah.
But which I'm super into. But that's the drummer. That's a whole other freaking world of drumming, which I don't do much with Rival Sons. So this is just meat and potatoes rock, eighth note fills around the toms. If you see me play 30-second notes, that's not like a cadenza at the end of a song. You can, kick me off the drums and like put somebody else here, because this is not Rival Sons is not a place for gospel chops and that kind of stuff. It's kind of intentionally ham-fisted. That's how they described Bonham when he first came out. Yeah. Who's this ham-fisted guy playing the blues? It's like one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And so, Bonham's sound is the most formidable. It's the most famous. It's the most talked about drum sound. I would say, like, who else's drum sound is discussed more than Bonham's? So
always the top of everybody's list.
Yeah.
And just for everybody back home, run us around the sizes.
So it's a 10 by 14. It's 10 deep, 14 in width. So I'll start with the depths first. That's how most drums are explained. I think this is a 15 by 16. So it's a 1 inch shallower. Bonham played 16 by 16, 16 by 18. 10 by 14. And then I think after In Through the Outdoor 77, that Nebworth show, like I think he's playing a 15 up here. And the bigger the drum and when it's tuned high, you don't have to work. That's the other thing, they're so responsive that you don't have to play as hard. So and if you use proper technique and all that stuff, playing this style of drum, once you get used to it, is you could play for hours and hours and hours, and so
you can be ham-fisted and still have dynamics.
Yeah. But when I think of ham-fisted, I think of like, burying the sticks. And Bonham had he had
supple wrist,
German to American grip. He had bounce. He had rebound. He had double strokes. He had paradiddles. All the stuff that he did was, he had great chops. He had excellent chops.
Yeah.
And so he was not by any means or stretch of the imagination ham-fisted. But I joke around because he does sound like a big guy playing drums, though, when he plays. And so that's what I just like that sound. It's girthy. You know?
Cool. And the rest of your sound is coming from these 2002s. Let's talk about cymbals. What do you got around the horn?
So these are the big beats. They came out in, I guess, 2015, 2016. we were opening for Deep Purple, and Eric Paiste, the owner, came out to show, and he had informed me that they were developing a new cymbal, and they had me in mind when they were developing them. So it was like super honor, you know, Paiste's my company, and but yeah, so he brought these cymbals out, and I tried them out on a we were opening for Deep Purple. I tried them out that night, and then we hung out after, and I said I absolutely love them. Keep making these, and let me know when when they're done. And so I had a set, like a prototype set, that I finished out that Deep Purple tour with. And it's basically, Eric never liked this explanation, but it's just a 2002 with just a slightly darker, it's kind of like low pass, like just taking a little bit of the high end, the brittleness out of it. And so you get kind of the best of both worlds of a 2002 and a giant beat. Giant beats are really buttery. They're not dark, but they're
buttery is a way, because when you play them, it's like that silky feel to it too. Like they hit a little different.
Yeah. So and the giant beats aren't hand hammered. These are hand hammered. You can see this one is prototype.
Yeah.
So I've been developing that with him for a couple years. It's it's essentially an Omni-esque ride. Sabian makes an Omni ride that Jojo Mayer developed, but this one I'm developing with them. I just wanted it more in this 2002 vibe. So it has a thinner lathe on the end for a crash. Just basic medium ping here, and then the thicker bell.
Yeah.
So it's gradually getting thinner and thinner as we get to the edge. So
we're seeing this happen a lot in rock, is that the ride has to be able to do three things. It has to have a bell that cuts. You really need to be able to stick it and have like good jazzy things, and it needs to wash and not kill the mix.
Yeah. So
this sounds awesome, and it's doing all three of those things really well.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll play like So. So it's got a lot. It's got a lot of spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, and I love it. So I've been playing these. I don't know what number that is. They made 4 of these. So usually we use number 2 or number 4. Aaron, my drum tech, he's always listening to the room, listening to the overtones of the cymbal, and he picks which one's better. So then I use 18, 19 preferably. Sometimes at different rooms, we play from clubs to theaters to arenas. So
are you bumping your sizes for bigger stuff?
For me, it's kind of almost opposite. Like in a big arena, I want more control, and the smaller the cymbal, the more control. Sound guy will be happier. The vocalist won't be having cymbal bash in his ear. Cymbals can be a nuisance to sound, and like we have everyone sings backup vocals in the band. So the lower the stage volume, the happier the sound man is. Happier the sound man is, the happier their audience is, because you're gonna hear stuff. And that's just a sidebar for musicians. Make friends with your sound guy or sound gal. You know, it's because the audience doesn't care what like you think is cool. It has to translate to the 500, 2,000, 12,000 people that are out listening to it.
Yeah.
So it's super cool that I have this set up, but if it doesn't translate to an audience, then it's moot. It's pointless. Our sound guy Neil McDonald, I've been working with him. I started playing with a guy called Joe Firstman, and Neil was the sound guy. So I've been working with Neil. I think this year is 20 years. I think we just had our 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
And so I've worked with him in multiple stuff. We brought him on as a sound guy in 2009, 2010 for Rival Sons. So he's been working with me on Big Drums Tuned High for for 20 years.
Cool.
And so we figured out how to, like these little, adding the cotton balls and all that stuff has been these slow little additions to the stuff. You can see these, the Pearl Presidential. Maybe we could translate to, or transition to Pearl.
Let's talk about it.
I switched to Pearl a couple years ago. They informed me they were going to be releasing the Presidential kit, which was their 1966 kit, their first kit. So it's a reissue of the 1966 Presidential Pearl kit. It's got the vintage logo. Pretty cool, pretty cool looking. I like the vibe of it. I like the idea of a vintage re-release. They wanted me to be the ambassador of this kind of new series, and so I took that on. So I was in the middle of deciding, and then they gave me another kit, another Presidential kit, smaller sizes, and let me use it in the studio on our new upcoming album, DARKFIGHTER, that's coming out in 2023, depending on when you're watching this video, June of 2023. And I set it up, put the mics on it. We rolled tape on the song that we had been working on, and everyone instantly loved the sound. And then next day, I recorded another song with the same kit, all of which are going to be on the album. And Dave Cobb, our producer, famous Grammy Award-winning producer, to like Jay. Jay's a great singer-drummer. I'll addendamize singer-drummer. If Jay practiced for like a month, he'd be pretty great. Everyone is into tone. Like, Scott Holiday and his rig rundowns are amazing. Like his tone, he's the fuzz lord, those tones over there. Bestie's tone, everyone is tone conscious, the stuff that Todd's doing over here. So you have to be, in Rival Sons, you kind of have to be on your A game tone-wise. So anyway, everyone approved of it. I loved it. Producer loved it. Engineer loved it. The band loved it. So they said that they would make these sizes for me. And rest is history. So these drums do have the internal muffling thing. I don't use these.
Okay.
They're just there to look cool. If I had my preference, I would just remove these. But in the studio, I have used these. So I'm not going to knock them. But live, when I'm on tour,
wide open.
It's 99.99999% of the time these drums will only be heard live on a stage with mics going through a PA. If we record on the road, I might just use the drums that are in the studio or whatever, or and if we do bring them in, I'll just muffle them with the gels, Yeah. But at home, I have a Presidential kit set up, and I use these a lot. Because in the studio, man, you wanna get as much control as you need, and these are so good. Yeah. And the little knobs on here are great. They're some of the old vintagey drums are kind of janky here, and they'll rattle. So like a lot of old vintage drums these things will they'll do this. This is from my in-ear hitting the thing, but they'll do that.
They'll drive you crazy.
Yeah, or you have a mic on it, and you got a nice 421 mic going through a Fairchild or Chandler compressor or something, and then you have this.
Yeah.
So they're great. They're very well made.
And what's the name of the finish?
This is Desert Ripple.
All right, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of brown beige, black, whatever this is.
Yeah. And that was a throwback to a finish from the 66?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. I'm not going to...
We won't. We'll cut it out.
Yeah, I'm not going to feign that answer. You can leave it in and show how honest I am.
Yeah, we'll see.
Pretty sure it must have been something like that. Because back in the 60s, they were doing this kind of look, that Ringo Marine Pearl and all that stuff. The aluminum 6.5 by 14-inch aluminum snare. I've been playing that for 20 years. It's kind of like if I had a sound, it's my sound, the aluminum drum. I had Gretsch drums, my Mayer Brothers drums, all the stuff you hear 95% of what you hear on the albums are done with an aluminum snare. And it's very seldom we'll like grab another snare just to try out. Pretty much the first 4 or 5 albums, it's like my kit, setup, roll tape, and then it wasn't until the like Feral Roots and DARKFIGHTER where we started kind of experimenting. Let's throw another kick drum, get something more like there's a song called Bird in the Hand. I used a 20-inch Ludwig, what's the WFL? Like old Ludwig, tiny like jazz bass drum with like a 15 and a 20-inch floor tom.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest kit, but it's got this beefy sound. And then the first time I ever used Pearl was on Nobody Wants to Die, on one of those fiberglass Pearl kits. So that kind of like cracked the ice, broke the ice a little bit for me to playing Pearl, because they called me out of the blue.
Yeah.
I think I had posted I was in Nashville recording on Instagram or something, and then I don't remember how they hit me up. Pearl was distributing the Wincent drumsticks, so they wanted me to come in and do some promotion. So then when I went in there, and that's how they like reeled me in. They lured me in.
Gotcha.
I was doing some promotion on my signature stick.
Let's talk about your signature stick. What are the specs on that?
It's a 5A XL. It's a half-inch longer than a normal 5A stick. I shaved 0.003 grams off of it, so 3 milligrams, I think, lighter than a 5A XL. So I used to do the 5B XL, and the XL, because the drums are bigger, I just figured that half-inch would be required or necessary. That's debatable whether it is or not. My teacher, I studied with Dave Elich, and he doesn't think it's necessary, because good technique is good technique. For me, I think it's just a mental thing. And now I just like the rebound of the longer stick. So,
well, it's putting the fulcrum in a different place. It kind of distributes the weight.
Yeah.
The shoulder is kind of different.
If you go through sticks, I think Questlove, Steve Jordan, Tommy Lee, Alex Van Halen, they all play 16-inch sticks, like so a little bit longer. So I was playing that 16, which is 5A XL. But anyway, I ended up with the 5A XL. It's a little too long for me, those ones. But so it's, I guess, hickory. I don't know, whatever this kind of wood is. But they have a patented wax that they put in the wood, and it keeps it sort of dense, or, basically I don't break as many sticks. So I go through about 1 pair of sticks per show, and I usually just toss them out. If there's kids in the front, I always toss them out to the kids. I
caught one time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You
Crazy.
did?
Yeah,
Oh,
at
cool.
Cannery.
Oh, a cannery, nice.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, so I try not to, people love lawyers these days, so, people are, back in the day, you'd throw them way out there. I feel like the people in front were the ones waiting all day. They've been sitting there, so I come out and I nicely toss them, to usually
You're too nice.
The person that's like going, me, that's who I usually give it to. But usually there's about 50 people doing that, so you kind of have to just go, So
well, mine was, it got bounced back. Like, I think you did that, and there was kind of like a sprawl for it, and it got bounced, and I just kind of barely had to do anything to catch it. I was very lucky. It's
always a tense moment, because, anybody can get hurt or elbow to the eye, or,
It's only rock and roll.
Yeah, and then you always have that one guy that, is around a bunch of girls, and the girls are going for it, and the guy's like, rah, wielding his power over the girls.
Let's talk about the tambourine. Is that a prototype as well?
This is a prototype, yeah. When I switched over to Pearl, I was just like, I need everything I have. I have a kit in Europe, I have a kit in America, I have hardware, I have cowbells, I have percussion, I have this thing. I use on the louder songs. On the ballads, my drum tech will come over and take this off.
Okay.
Because when you have a more sensitive, dynamic vibe, and I'm trying to do that, it gets a little janky. So, but I also like it for like breakdowns. like Jay may be talking to the crowd or something, you know, just to have like a little. I like that there. I added a cowbell. I just like Latin music, and it's really for when we jam or we don't have a like a classic cowbell song. Off Feral Roots, there's Sugar on the Bone, which jokingly again in the studio. Actually, everyone went to eat, and it was just me and the engineer, and I actually layered like 14 percussion things on that Sugar on the Bone. You hear it, it's very percussive. It's like dun, dun. Really simple beat, but then I went. I did the Gene Frankel, right? Or whatever, the more cowbell.
Yeah.
And I just put it in there. I go, you know what? I'm going to let whoever mixes the album, he can have it. It's all there's like 15 percussion parts. He can mix that however. And it made the album. I was like, yes.
Yes.
So when we played it live, I had a pedal over here doing the cowbell parts. One of those floor pedals hitting the. But just in general, I like to have a cowbell. And now in Pressure and Time, I'll go to second verse. I'll play instead of going boom. I do just a little more Latin-y sounding, funky. It breaks up the vibe, the monotony of it, and Jay kind of sings the second verse a little bit different. So it's just a musical thing.
That's cool.
I do it in our jam when we jam and like open guitar solo. I'll go to like little Latin sections and do the Steve Gadd, the classic Steve Gadd thing I've ripped off. Some cool Steve Gadd groove. You can hear it on a bunch of stuff Steve Gadd did with Paul Simon and all that stuff. So
yeah, and your foot is sounding great on all this stuff. What are you kicking it with?
So it's a Pearl Eliminator, just a basic.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, it's I was a DW 9000 guy for years. This thing rivals it, if not better. It feels a little. It's just a strong pedal, and you can a lot of ways to dial in your tension and the back throw and all that. I play it very tense because it has to pull off the head. If it's really loose, you'll tend to like bury the bass drum and you get the little buzz sound. So it almost hits me in the top of the foot or the shin, you know. So you got to be careful if you do switch to this style of playing. It will catch, or if you wear bell bottoms or boot cut jeans, it will 100% catch, and you will either rip her pants or miss a huge downbeat with your band, and they will fire you. So you'll see some guys will
tape the leg.
They'll tape the leg just like when you ride a bike or something. So you see how far it comes back.
Yeah, it's about to
so I don't know
smack
if
the top of your foot there.
GoPro can see that. So I've had it like literally like go like that, you know?
Up under.
And then you go, and you're like, oh, and it just takes the whole earth out from under your feet because you think you're going to go, oh, like beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, it slipped out. But so
you can't get away from that if you wanted to now.
Yeah.
You have the Porter Davies. These things, we've been seeing these out on the road, and these are very cool. Talk about how your throne is set up.
If you put your hand here, it has that vibration.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And toms are in there for a little bit extra. And even the overtone or the decay is still in there. Funny thing is here, feel the seat. Like when I play really light, it's very strong.
Yeah.
And then when I play strong, it's like the same. So when I'm playing dynamically, when I'm playing like in a ballad, it's very responsive to the dynamics. And we don't gate anything. I should mention that. No gates. And so what you hear is what you get. It's kind of our vibe. Probably a good thing to end on. But Porter and Davies, great. They make the stool, the drum stool that vibrates. For those of you who are might not know, it's a thumper seat, kind of a version of a thumper. And the thumper allows you to have in-ear monitors and allows you to feel the bass drum and feel the drums. It vibrates and shakes things up inside.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having us, and thank you for giving us a tour of this awesome kit. Good luck out on the road, and is there anything that we can look forward to? You said a new album coming out?
Yeah, DARKFIGHTER on Atlantic Records. DARKFIGHTER will come out June 2nd on Atlantic Records in the US and in Europe, I believe. Might be a day before or later in Europe. But in the US, June 2nd is the release date, and so we're looking forward to that. It's a double album. We have a second part 2 of the album coming out in October called Lightbringer. So it's a double album. We made a lot. It was during COVID, man. We just kept writing and recording, and we would go to Dave Cobb's RCA, spend a week there, go home for a few months, write. Like, we just took our time. First time we really took our time making an album. We have 8 albums in 13 years. So before COVID, we were doing about one every 18 months. So, we spent a little bit more time on it. The lyrics are amazing. I think Jay outdid himself with lyrics. If you're a lyrics person, check out the liner notes. I'm not sure if we put the lyrics in the thing, but iTunes will probably figure out a way to mess some of them up. That's a joke, Apple. Sometimes I'm like following the lyrics. I love following the lyrics. My kids do the karaoke thing. I love Apple Music app. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes they'll put a wrong word in there. It's like very interesting. I don't know what is it, AI?
Yeah,
deciphering?
Don't anger the robots, though. If I've learned anything. The Chat GPT.
Chat GPT is figuring out the lyrics. And no Chat GPT. We did our artwork on an AI thing. So Martin Whitfuth, he did the last 2 album artwork, and we wanted him to. So since we're doing 2 releases, he inserted what he thought when he listened to the album.
That's cool.
Into an AI thing, and then so the album 2 is going to be his painted answer to the AI. So we wanted to mess around with the AI thing. It's kind of in and trendy and hated and loved, and so it's a really cool thing. You can see the album cover now in the pre-release thing. It's a tiger. The fact that he came up with whatever words he came up with when he listened to the record, put it in, and it's this tiger that just looks formidable. And I have a tiger tattoo. I like tigers and I like cats and stuff. I purr if you tickle me right. But I think
cool.
I think that's it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And we will put all of that stuff for the new album down in the description box. We are here in Nashville, Tennessee with Michael Miley of Rival Sons. This has been the Drum Rundown. We will see you on the next one.